Hello! Welcome to Redacted Tonight. This is the show where Americans in America covering American news are called foreign agents. I come to you today with a shocking fact, a stunning, moderately horrifying announcement, something that could shake America to its core. That fact is, there are more than just two political parties. What? No! He has uttered that which must not be spoken! Yes, there are other parties in America, including the Libertarian Party, the Green Party, the Independent Party, and the militant legume farmers of Roseanne Barija. But one of the most fascinating new parties is the Movement for a People's Party, which is not running a presidential candidate this time around, but is building for future elections. And they had a convention this past weekend, so I thought we'd take a look at what they stand for. I assume it's mostly demanding that the remaining monarch butterflies be executed with tiny guillotines for their elitist, undemocratic ways. But let's wait and see. To start off, here is actor and guy who once dared say that Venezuelans have the right to their own country, Danny Glover.
Those are the things that I think that are important to understand. How do we look at work? What is the relationship that we have for work? And how do we create the kind of transformative work and the kind of work that certainly it helps us develop as human beings and help us develop our communities.
What? No, 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 no. Work is not meant to help you develop as human beings. Work is meant to slowly grind down your soul until you collapse at age 60, having hardly seen your children grow up and your dreams now having been eroded until they involve what kind of garden gnome you hope to put out front your double wide. In our unfettered capitalist society, your life is not yours. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of whichever corporation happens to gobble you up. Jesus, Danny, work to develop our communities. Where do they get this stuff? I hope the next guy doesn't go off the rails like that.
We all have a right to life. That is a fundamental human right, but we've never truly recognized it. No one really has the right to life so long as someone else can withhold what's needed to live. Within a monetary system of private property, money is oxygen, so we all have an unconditional right to enough money to live. That is why I believe the most important structural change of all is an unconditional basic income floor, where every American would start every month above the poverty line and never fall below it.
No! God damn it, poverty is the best thing America has going. If there were no poverty, then no one would do any work, even though every study has shown otherwise. Plus, if you got rid of extreme poverty, how would rich people feel good about themselves? I'm sure that's the best part of being rich. You get to sit in your Porsche, revving the engine, burning loads of gas just 'cause you can, while thinking, bet it sucks to be poor. Without that, most rich people would kill themselves, and then where would we be? So far, Movement for a People's Party is talking about a lot of things that are not supposed to be talked about, and people find that upsetting. What's next? They're gonna say Black Panther was overrated? Let's hope this next guy's a little more down to earth. His name is Chris Hedges.
There is only one choice in this election, and that is the consolidation of oligarchic power under Donald Trump or the consolidation of oligarchic power under Joe Biden. The oligarchs with Trump or Biden will win again, and we will lose.
Well, he makes it sound like a bad thing. Yes, the oligarchs will win this election. They will continue mass imprisonment of our citizens, continue the worst healthcare in the developed world, continue wars of choice that kill or maim millions overseas, and continue sprinting towards full environmental destruction. But that Hedges guy made it sound like no fun. Think of the positives. Let's move on.
Only one thing matters to the oligarchs. It is not democracy. It is not truth. It is not the consent of the governed. It is not income inequality. It is not the surveillance state. It is not endless war. It is not jobs. It is not the climate breakdown. It is the primacy of corporate power, which has extinguished our democracy and left most of the working class and the working poor in misery, as well as the continued increase and consolidation of their wealth.
The primacy of corporate power and increase and consolidation of the wealth of the already wealthy. Well, wasn't that in the national anthem? That's kind of our thing. I think I remember it's one of the parts most people mumble through. In fact, Chris Hedges is, of course, right. We're witnessing the largest consolidation of wealth ever seen, while more people than ever face eviction in the land of the free. You are not free if you are beaten down and imprisoned by economic force. That is not freedom. That is full frontal oppression. But the two corporate conventions don't want to talk about that because it's such a bummer. Much better to talk about how Joe Biden took the train to work for a bunch of years and once said hi to an elevator operator. Giggity, giggity, goo. Let's go now to something the corporate parties won't touch with a 10-foot pole made out of the bones of their victims: climate change. Here's NASA climate scientist Dr. Peter Kalmus.
It's not the new normal. We're on an escalator, basically, toward getting worse. It's going to stay getting worse and worse until we have massive, rapid, radical systems change. To do that, we need policies. We basically need policies that would destroy the fossil fuel industry, because we're not talking about just reducing it a little bit. We're not talking about a 10% reduction in the fossil fuels that we burn and the greenhouse gas emissions that we emit every year. We're talking about going down to zero on a massively fast time scale, which means a radical transformation of society.
What? Didn't you watch the RNC and the DNC? The theme was policy schmolicy for both of them. The Republicans don't even have a party platform anymore. They decide what they're going to do each day by waking up Trump at 6 a.m., putting a bunch of different toys in front of him that represent various domestic and foreign mandates, and then seeing which one he rubs his shit on. That's the one they focus on that day. You know, democracy. But I suppose if you want to listen to science, Dr. Kalmus is right. We need to drastically change our entire society if we want to survive. Or we could drive our SUV 20 minutes with the AC on full blast to go buy a hamburger covered in bacon, covered in cheese, that required 1,000 gallons of fresh water, 100 gallons of fuel, and 2 or 3 animals to create. And we could eat that while listening to sports radio. Doesn't that sound better than the survival thing? I rest my case. This MPP convention sure is awful. Next, they're going to say we shouldn't be bombing a bunch of innocent people around the world or something.
It's also so wonderful to be among a group of people who understand why we need an alternative to the war parties, to the parties that kill and maim and displace millions of people around the world with no accountability, no remorse, and no lessons learned.
Yes, that's more like it. You know what's awesome about the two corporate parties? They are bigger and better than girly emotions like remorse or accountability. America! Accountability is for like little baby ducklings and shit like that. True bold leaders piss on your shoe while staring you in the eye and then walk away without another word. It is true, though. Millions have died from our wars and bombing put forward and supported by Donald Trump and Joe Biden. That's not an exaggeration. Thousands upon thousands of bombs dropped, whole societies upended, and cultures ruptured and wounded. And yet Trump and Biden seem to have no empathy, which results in no remorse. We have a word for that in the English language: sociopath. These are sociopaths. But at least they're cognitively diminished sociopaths, right? That's better than smart ones on the ball. Next up, former Democratic presidential candidate Marianne Williamson.
When I think of this convention, the first word that comes up for me is patriotic. You see, it's a great American tradition to push back against overreach by capitalism. That's what the labor unions are. And of course, as part of the trickle-down hostage taking of this country, there has been an almost decimation of the labor movement in the United States. But that pushback is the most patriotic, most traditionally American thing that we can do.
No. The most patriotic thing we could do is bow down to the two corporate Wall Street pro-war parties and obediently allow the nation's CEOs to extract the good working years out of our souls in exchange for 1 week paid vacation and sometimes dental. Sometimes there's dental. That's the American way. All this talk of loving and helping each other and healthcare as a human right and strong labor unions and creating a sustainable environment that won't turn to ash in a few years, that's un-American. I read it on a Papa John's pizza menu, and pizza never lies. Well, let's ask one of the elders of Zion in the Matrix, Dr. Cornel West.
We are living in a moment of massive imperial meltdown, spiritual breakdown, and we need prophetic fight back. And the People's Party is a prophetic fight back that, like Du Bois, believes in multiracial, multi-gender, multi-sexual orientational, multi-binary and non-binary sexual sensibilities and orientations, a solidarity with those fransphonon called the wretched of the earth that can tell the truth about America, both its best and its worth.
Imperial meltdown and spiritual breakdown, you say? No. Well, maybe yes. That sounds about right. But along with imperial meltdown and spiritual breakdown, you forgot the immoral rubdown that we're also getting. The U.S. government assaults Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Yemen, Iran, Venezuela, Bolivia, Lebanon, Palestine, the oceans, the forests, the skies, the animals, the workers, the immigrants, the children, the poor, the indigenous. But then they get a rubdown from Jeffrey Epstein's girls. You can't really ask them to give that up.
That's where we are now, right on the edge of the cliff with the neo-fascist gangster in the White House and the milquetoast neoliberals who still vote for his military budget over and over again. AFRICOM expands in Africa. The same ugly policies in Latin America. We've talked about the Middle East. We don't have time to talk about Asia, but that's very important too, with China and all of their forms of domination. What a time to be alive, pandemic and all. And yet, here comes the People's Party. Here comes that same radical democratic tradition that embraces us all. And I come in from the chocolate side of the empire.
I find your aggressive non-whiteness very threatening. You're making viewers question all their inherent cultural biases and the propaganda that they have now internalized so much, to such an extent that they think it's their own natural thoughts. And so I think the next step is to change the subject. Who do we have to wrap things up here? Let's see. Oh, dear God. Nina Turner, a black woman? Her very existence is a thought crime. Go ahead.
How can we have peace when children go to bed hungry at night? How can we have peace when our veterans are homeless or can't get the health care that they deserve? And speaking of health care, baby, how can we have peace when even in the moment of a global pandemic, we can't even get the neoliberals of the Democratic Party to reverse course in a platform that is non-binding? Hello, somebody. How can we have peace?
Wow. Nina, you may have just said some very important things, some incredibly significant truths that would never be spoken at the DNC or the RNC or our corporate airwaves. But I only judge ideas by the production value they're couched in. So because the ridiculously crucial ideas you're preaching were said in a video that looks like a hostage situation, I will pay them no mind, none whatsoever. Anyway, there's hours of more mind-blowing ideas that you can go watch at peoplesparty.org. Like I said, they aren't running a presidential candidate this year, so you can look at their platform and still bicker about Biden or Trump. I know people love doing that, so you can still do that. But we are in dire times, and these times require more than simply, do I want the end times to have a slight blue shade or a slight red shade? Do I want healthcare to bankrupt me with a slight blue shade or a red shade? Do I want to bomb innocent people thousands of miles away with a slight blue shade or a red shade? Do I want to live under a dystopian surveillance state with a slight blue shade or a red shade? Do I want to live in the largest prison state the world has ever known with a slight blue shade or a red shade? Do I want to watch the natural world collapse, falling to pieces before our eyes with a slight blue shade or a red shade? It's time to demand more. Coming to you from Washington, D.C., the belly of the beast, this is Redacted Tonight. Oh, shit. I'm missing a shoe. I had two shoes. Anyway, let me get to the point. There's a Thanks. All of our content, Redacted Tonight's content, is now at a brand new free app called Portable TV. Okay, you can get every episode, no commercials, all at Portable TV. You can grab it for free, and then I can follow you everywhere you go. I mean, I have been anyway, but this will be less awkward. So go get it. All right, go ahead. Take both shoes this time.